The Village Voice calls Darlinda Just Darlinda a mastermind of bizarre extravaganza. That's right. And she's been working as a burlesque performer, performance artist, and producer since 2004 locally in NYC and internationally, Australia, China, Finland, Germany, France, England, Canada, and most of the USA, including Alaska. Whoa! Alaska. Darlinda is one half of the burlesque duo, the Schlepp Sisters, co-producing such shows as the 11th annual Menorah Hora. I love that. And the Burning Bush versus the Second Coming. I swear, burlesque artists and drag artists are the most witty, clever people. They should be hired to write like all the sitcoms. Darlinda has produced shows the New York Times calls shockingly explicit. I think I might do your bio as a one-person show. Is that cool? Darlinda has also performed off-Broadway and on TV. She performed with Taylor Mack in The Lily's Revenge. Who saw The Lily's Revenge? Taylor Mack is amazing. The 29th annual Roots of American Music Festival at Lincoln Center, Celebrate Brooklyn, and 24 decades of popular music, all with Taylor Mack. So she's like an influencer of Taylor Mack, and they influence each other. I just remember I worked a tiny bit with Taylor Mack on that 24-hour thing, and I just saw you just like wandering around in like a rainbow dress, and it was like, yes, Liv, I love you, thank you. Anyway, give it up for Darlinda Just Darlinda!
Thank you, Drae. Yeah, I'm gonna stand. Oh yeah, I'm gonna sit down on the floor. Rule number one: performing. Make sure you can be seen. Hi everyone. So this is my first time wearing glasses on stage. And my first time telling a story, doing storytelling. That wasn't involving dance or lines or improvisation. So thank you for being here, and I'm very nervous, but I feel that tenderness, so I appreciate all of you for providing that tenderness and the storytellers that came before me. So thank you. Drae asked me to tell a story, I think a couple of months ago here, and I wasn't available, but I said, like, I'm free the second Saturday in May, so I want that. I want to do that. And so I said, so she said yes, and it was great. And I was like, okay, cool, awesome, and then like a few months ago, or like a month ago, she's like, okay, so the theme is intimacy. And I was like, fuck! So a little history. There's a podcast that I had been asked to read for, which is really amazing, and it's like a big deal podcast. Like they have big shows, they fill big venues, and it's really awesome. And they had asked me to read a story, and the theme was sex, and so I was like, oh, I have this great story, but it's not sexy. It's about my emotionally and physically abusive ex-partner, who was outed for sexual assault on social media. So I want to talk about it like in this format. So we worked together on this story, but for me, it was very difficult to access the emotions that I was feeling and the stories because it's a really great in-depth podcast. They really want you to like go back and find those stories and remember how the room smelled and put it in 10-minute time frame. So it was very difficult for me. It was really good for me. It was difficult for me. So when Drae was like, okay, intimacy, I was like, well, fuck, that's the story I have to tell. So this is a different version because that story was almost a year ago that I was asked to tell that story, and I started working on it. I stopped in the fall. So it's a new story. So I'm queer, and as I assume all of us are, maybe we're not, but here we are. And some people might call me bisexual, but I don't agree with that because there's not just two genders. And I spent a big portion of 5 years of my life. I'm 37 now. We've all been intimate. I spent 5 years of my life in a relationship with a cisgender man, which incidentally I was outed as straight by Murray Hill at a 9/11 tribute, like a 10-year 9/11 tribute that Juliette Lesmuse put on. So that was fun. Anyways, just community. Yeah. So my ex was, like I said, outed for sexual assault on social media, and at the time, I had broken up with him already, but we were producing a burlesque show together, and I was experiencing PTSD because what I realized because all these stories kept coming out. I mean, we see that when people are outed for anything on social media, that it's like it really becomes this firestorm of stories that come out, and each time I would read a story, my heart would drop, and I'd be like, oh yeah, that sounds like him. But I was still friends with him, and I was still working with him, and he. I assume that he's mentally ill because he never ever once was like, oh, that's a lot of people that feel that I violated them. Maybe I fucked up. There was never that one. There was like 1-2 hour conversation that we had where he kind of took a moment to kind of be like, do you think that's me? And I said, well, yeah, I do. I shared an example of a quite intimate moment. We were non-monogamous, and as I'm queer, it was great because then I could, have sex with, all kinds of genders. And something that he would do quite often was when we were hooking up with a woman, is he would force me to go down on them, and something that I quite enjoy doing, but I'm a sexual top when it comes to people with vaginas. So it was like really it was not a great thing for me to be topped into eating pussy, which I love, which is, you really fuck me up, right? So that was just like kind of one form of abuse that he would do. The other would be a physical situation where we would get in a fight. I would just, like, I'm an asshole when I fight. I'm like really mean, and I don't want to, like I'm going to say some really mean things. So my instinct is just to leave and go cool the fuck down, right? So that's what I want to do. So I'm always trying to get out of the apartment when we had these fights. And what he would do is physically prevent me from leaving. So what would happen is that I would push and scratch and kick him off of me, and then he would get injured. And then, the next day he'd be like, no one will ever believe that I'm being abused, right? Because I'm a man. And it just became this really intense, this is how I lived. It was almost every day. We would actually, every time we would produce a show, this would happen. We'd get in these really intense fights, because that's however he dealt with his stress. Came down on me. So that ended, my relationship with him ended about a month after he was accused of sexual assault on social media. I foolishly defended him publicly, which I think I lost some friends because of that. That's life. But when he told me that he'd been having unprotected sex within the context of our fluid bonded open relationship, we were fluid bonded together, but the agreement was that when we had sex with other people that we would use protection, right? So he told me, a month after the firestorm on the internet, that he'd been having unprotected sex throughout the entirety of our relationship. So that's 5 years of lies. And so immediately I was like, okay, I can't, you can't be in my life anymore. Like, you're gone. I'm like, no, I took that off social media, and right there and then I decided never to to share any romantic intimacy, Darlinda Just Darlinda isn't a relationship with. Like, that's never ever going to, you're never going to see that on Facebook, you're never going to see who I'm dating on the internet, like, unless you're, I don't know, you're just not going to see it. Maybe I'll talk about it in a story, because I'm liking the storytelling. It's happening. So that happened, and then the healing began, right? So I was able to let go of this really toxic relationship, and the healing began. I got sober. I just started dating women more, and I actually was like, this like physical thing happened where I just like the idea of a penis, like the physical seeing a penis was really disgusting to me. And I'm a burlesque performer, so I'm naked and I'm with a lot of different naked bodies every day. That's just like part of my life. I see them on stage. I'm in very small quarters, like much smaller than you and I are. Like right here, there's like all kinds of naked people all around me changing, right? So I was physically like traumatized by penises, and yeah, and so. So it took me a while to also heal from that. And last summer, I work at a venue called The Box, and they also have a venue in London. And I was booked for a week, and they do each week they do a different show. And this week I was the only act that was just like one female, right? Every act had somebody with a penis in it, right? So, and we're in this very small dressing room, and there's like this huge like porn star stripper guy, like with a Cockney accent, jerking off with like this big dick, like this, just like jerking off and like telling the most funny jokes. Like, oh, I'm just jerking off. I can't do this accent, but it's just sitting there like with his arm, just like talking, and it's just so casual. And then next to me is this aerialist from the Netherlands who's playing Popeye, and he has this big dildo that he's like, how Popeye's muscles like, blow up. His dick is blowing up. That's the whole like thing of the shtick, right? And then next to him is a guy who's like this big porn star. He's like known for putting like, traffic cones in his ass, and like he's got his buddy who's in his act who like is like getting hard because like you want to show that your dick is big when you're on stage, right? That's the money, right? So I was like. So I'm in this room 5 nights a week, for a week, but 5 nights in a row with these men, and it strangely healed my relationship with seeing penises, and so I just was like, oh, okay, I can go to Fire Island and be with like my gay friends who I like see their penises all the time, and not like be like, oh, what is that? And that was a really transformative experience. Recently, about 2 months ago, 3 months, what's January, however long ago that was, my attraction to men came back. It was a very strange feeling in my body, like being, it was just, my flaps were moist. And I was like, what is happening? This has not been like this. What's going on? It freaked me the fuck out. It literally drove me to drink. And so I was like, why am I so freaked out? What is going on? I was like, well, okay. Well, there's this intimacy, this part of me that feels unsafe, right? So I've been able to, I'm not drinking anymore. It was only 3 weeks of drinking. I was able to like look and see like, okay, this is okay. Like what my sexuality is okay. Who I am attracted to is okay. And it's really complicated being queer because I wish it were a choice. I wish I could just be like, no, I'm lesbian. Like that would be all right. Like I just want to be with people with vaginas. That would be my ideal, right? But you can't. It's not. That's like your body tells you. It is what it is. You can't choose. You can't choose these things. And you know, it's like, it's wonderful. It's wonderful to be queer. Like, I was really grateful that I was not just straight, because if I were just straight, then I would be stuck with penises when I didn't want to be with penises. You know what I mean? And so obviously my heart goes out to people who are traumatized by any specific gender. And enter Janelle Monáe. so I'm in this world of like, fuck, I don't know, like, you know, I'm dating now, and I have to choose one, right? I have to choose, like, you know, like on Tinder, if you choose both, then like you only get male-bodied people that come in. If you choose one, you only get women. So it's like this, ooh, right? And I also felt like, okay, well, I have to decide. Like, okay, am I gonna be with a woman, and I'm kind of like have like a man on the side on occasion, but I don't want her to date anyone because like I'm jealous, right? So this is like this. This is what's going through my brain. And there's no like, you know, heteronormative like format, like, oh, you go on 3 dates and you have sex because you cook at your house, and then you like meet the parents like a year in, or whatever bullshit narrative, right? There's none of that for people who like all genders, right? And then boom, Janelle Monáe shows up, right? And watching Dirty Computer and seeing this, like, I'm gonna spoil it, so seeing Janelle like have a boyfriend and a girlfriend, and like, you know, it's just this like this celebration of intimacy and love, no matter who you don't decide, who you end up being with, and I think that choice. The choice is a celebration, right? Like, you can't choose who you're attracted to, but you can choose to celebrate it. And I don't remember where I heard this, but maybe it was RuPaul's Drag Race, or maybe Janelle said it, because I've been obsessed with her and listening to podcasts and anywhere she's interviewed. It's like, oh, Liz, I would like to marry her one day. That's on the record. You know, it's possible she had, maybe she wants more than one female partner. Anyways, but that celebration is an act of resistance, and intimacy is also an act of resistance. So I encourage you to accept yourself, to allow yourself to be intimate. We're all fucking afraid of it, but you know, these moments of intimacy that we can have, like this tender moment that we're all having together, this is resistance. So resist, and I love you all. Thank you.